Let me bring it back to what's happening here at home and here in Nevada, Congresswoman, because obviously you are challenging Senator Dean Heller for the 2018 seat there. I want to get you on the record. Did Harry Reid ask you to run?
A lot of people talk to me about running, but I'll tell you the honest truth. No one can talk you into this. It's really hard, and you have to want to do it. And so when I thought about why it was important, what was important to, for the state of Nevada, the hardworking families here, how they need a voice, a common sense person who's going to listen to what they worry about at the kitchen table and find smart solutions, that's why I decided to run. And honestly, my daughter, who's 21, looked at me and she said, Mom, I'm so proud of you that you can do this, that you can stand up and you can fight for our future. And that is the core reason I'm doing it, because I look at my daughter and I look at her friends and I look at all of my friends, and what they worry about at the kitchen table needs to be heard, it needs to be understood, and that's how we need to legislate, with common sense, smart solutions.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned that a lot of people talked to you about it, and I just want to, was Harry Reid one of those people?
Harry Reid was one of those people, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And
she had plenty of time to campaign in California, raising money in Hollywood.
I'm Cyrus Hojati. Today is October the 9th, 2018. I want to start off to talk about, first of all, for about a minute or two, regarding what happened at the UFC fight in the T-Mobile Arena right along the Las Vegas Strip. And I have to just say that it was just entertaining in one way, but it kind of reveals the current social trends and kind of the societal concerns that we're experiencing. I think that a lot of people are experiencing just personal anger and aggression, and you're just seeing it filter out in such random events and in random places. So a lot of the issues I talk about, I think it's fueling the rise and the kind of the outcomes of what you see in the T-Mobile Arena. So anyway, I want to get to the topic of this video, and I want to talk about the midterm elections, and not just the United States, but particularly in our state of Nevada. And a lot of people have pointed out that the current midterm election results are pretty darn competitive. And I'm really having my fingers crossed, believe it or not, because one of the things is that out of all the candidates that is running, that I could potentially cast my ballot, that I really do not want to win, is not Sisolak, is not a lot of these other radical extremists, other than Jacky Rosen. Very controversial and really based on identitarian BS. Okay, so she doesn't really have a lot of the brighter spots of the leftist agenda, fighting the corporations, Wall Street, campaign finance reform, tackling income inequality. She doesn't really go over that much. In fact, the Democrats used to be really about that. You hear that a lot back in the day from Dennis Kucinich, but you really don't see that. She's catering to the so-called LGBT, the feminists, the immigrants, the minorities, and unfortunately, we have a lot of minorities here in the state, particularly here in Clark County. So a lot of people are asking, well, what's going to happen with the Senate race? Now, if you hear from MSNBC and CNN, they're going to obviously tell you that Rosen's going to get it, but you do know that their polling is rigged. Nevertheless, there's a lot of people that are pointing out that it's going to be a toss-up. So we have a lot of favorable and unfavorable things, but I do believe that Heller does have a shot. Now, is Heller perfect? No. I've been quite critical of him. I've seen him in person about a couple of times, but nevertheless, we have to stop Jacky Rosen. Jacky Rosen hardly offers any benefit to our country. She is a Harry Reid tool. Now, let's talk about previous elections and let's talk about how this compares to now. Now, if we start to look at 2012, we can see right here that, believe it or not, Dean Heller actually won the Senate race by a very tiny margin, about 11,000 votes. So the question is things going to be less favorable because of that? I don't believe that, because 2012 is an election year for president, and believe it or not, the fact is that usually in midterms, with the exception of 2010 with Harry Reid, Republicans do pretty well in the state of Nevada. And in fact, if you look at 2016, Ensign beat Jack Carter by a very large margin. Of course, 2016 gave a lot of seats to the Democrats. So we can take a look at 2012, and you can see it was a presidential election year, and despite that, Heller won pretty well. Now, of course, Heller probably got some votes taken away by some individuals like David Laurie Vanderbeek, but I just don't think in 2016 there's going to be somebody like that. And Shelley Berkeley had much more name recognition than Jacky Rosen. Keep that in mind. And the Democrats were not in so much trouble in 2012 as they are now, because a lot of dissatisfaction has grown with the Democratic Party. So let's take a look at 2018 back again. And you can see here, then again, we're in a midterm season. 2014, the GOP did very well in the state of Nevada in terms of the state and the House races. And I do believe that it's going to carry on. Now, do I think the GOP is going to do so well in 2014? Probably not. I do think that there's going to be some kind of Democratic resistance, but I wouldn't be too surprised that if the resistance wasn't not as high as 2016. Now, of course, the big question is not about whether Heller will have more votes. The big question is, will this election be valid? Because you have to understand that a lot of voter fraud can occur. But I'll get to that a little bit later. So midterms are pretty favorable. Now, also keep in mind that Dean Heller, believe it or not, actually has a lot of support from Donald Trump supporters. They're working hand to hand together. Dean Heller is important for people like me because I spoke to Mr. Heller that he does support a merit-based immigration system, and it's very important for the Las Vegas economy, considering that a lot of people who are foreign-born in the Las Vegas area, about 25%, believe it or not, and it's about 40% if you include the children, including myself, that a lot of them are working in jobs that are low-skilled, that don't provide any real value to society. And those do not include picking up crops, believe it or not. So, one of the things that I just wanted to point out is also the polling. You can see here that the primary votes of both parties was about the same. Okay? Now, what's also important to know that all these are toss-up. Unlike in 2016, there were many rankings that were pointing out that it was going to be leaning Democratic for Cortez Masto. But toss-up, it's more likely it's going to go to Heller. And of course, Heller is getting a lot more contributions, got a lot of support from the Sands, Sheldon Adelson. Now you can see here the CNN polls have Jacky Rosen in a high leading margin, but then you can see other polls that Heller is doing much better. And you can see even the polls, believe it or not, that has more Democrats than Republicans. You can see here, this is the ISOP poll. Heller is still ahead. And don't trust the polls because you can see their track record. But remember, one of the things I just wanted to point out is one of the topics about this video is, let's see if we can get to here, believe it or not, that I want to talk about the Culinary Workers Union right here. Very dangerous, a very, very controversial organization, anti-white, pro-massive abusive immigration organization. And you can see here, look what they're doing. It's quick and easy. You need a driver's license to vote. So they don't even tell you that you need to be a citizen. So it's very likely that they're pumping in non-citizens to vote. You can see here in a not so attractive house. And you can see that basically that they're doing what they can to manipulate and fraud. I wouldn't be surprised if DACA recipients like Astrid Silva gets involved. There's buses of people shipping them into polls. You have to do a lot of watching, ladies and gentlemen. This is very, very important. Okay, I protested, counter them about a couple of months ago. Keep this in mind. And so you can see right here that, oh, well, I'm joining a union, the immigrant vote. This is a very dangerous organization. It's not mainly about the benefit of the U.S. citizens who are workers. It's about a political tool to get certain laws and policies involved. So not only the unions have been weakened over the past several decades, they have been hijacked, just like the SEIU. And just scroll down right here. So again, they're pumping up Jacky Rosen. They're trying to pump up Latino voters. But of course, we'll have to see if it succeeds, because there's been a lot of reports that the Latino support for these kinds of candidates is actually falling down. And you can see here, and I just wanted to point out that they're getting pissed off that automation is taking their labor. This is why I believe massive immigration will be conflicted with automation and along with the U.S. global stance around the world. Not necessarily the politicians and the policies itself. So you can see here, you can look at their track record basically around here, is that they try to pump up minorities. You can see here, largely Latino. And again, this just shows you that these foreign immigrants are really taking care of our low-wage jobs. These were the guys that helped, as you can see here, pump up Harry Reid by 401 votes in 1998. Think about how much impact that this has done. Think about how shortly before Harry Reid was against anchor babies and birthright citizenship. So you have to understand that these people are playing a significant role, and you have to be aware of potential voter fraud. So I want you to all get out to the polls. Talk to your neighbors and your community. You have to make sure that, believe it or not, that you get your friends and family to vote, because this election is very critical. Think about that. We don't want our state to become more like California. Arizona is also in play, believe it or not. Even Texas, but not as much. Take care, spread this video, and make a difference.
There are the stories of Latinos voting, of Latinos organizing, of Latinos becoming citizens in record numbers, and of Latinos coming together to ensure that they have a voice not just in 2016, but in 2017 and beyond.
In terms of, we change laws. How easy is it to change a law in New York State? I don't know. But when you're the largest employer and the largest taxpayer in the state of Nevada, we can get laws changed pretty quickly. And we regularly do it.